I was expecting a strong start. You know, that start where in the first 5-10 minutes you go into people's faces, you play maybe a game that you're not playing usually, you know, you put pressure when you shouldn't put pressure, and you try to ask them questions. But then you didn't, and apart from an early cross that Vincent Kompany miscleared, but you didn't really ask them a lot of questions, and so they started to control the ball, play their game, and it became really difficult. You're 1-0 down, 2-0 down, you sense that the crowd is not happy, you come back from the Carabao Cup. So I thought Arsenal was going to have a response, because I'm thinking about being a competitor. You're playing with a team that just beat you at the weekend, and you have a chance to put things right in a way. And the start wasn't the best start ever, obviously. And then after that, from that standpoint, being 2-0 down, it was always going to be difficult for them. And you kind of looking at the game and you're like, you know, it's going to be a hard one. Maybe if Aubameyang scored this penalty, we could have had an okay second half, if I can say. But they didn't start well to try to try to win this game.
I think tonight was nothing about what happened on the pitch. I think last season there was scenes at this club and there was anger from supporters. There was marches against Arsene Wenger, which I thought was a disgrace. I don't like that. I think tonight was worse. They're not actually interested, the Arsenal fans. They didn't turn up. I'm having a go at them for not coming. I can understand.
Also, the weather conditions and the travel conditions because of that are difficult.
There was a few boos at the end. It wasn't like it was last season. That was anger. Now it's almost like resignation, as if just waiting for the manager to go. And you think, how sad is that? That probably there'll be very few, if any, Arsenal fans want Arsene Wenger as the manager next season. I find that sad. This man's a legend, and when I was playing, it was him and Alex Ferguson as the two top managers batting it out, and you thought, wow, what a manager. And he is a legendary figure, not just for Arsenal, in the English game, in the Premier League game. But they have to change it. It has to be done. And I said at the start of the show, and it's no different, whatever the result, they won 3-0, it doesn't make any difference. There's no way the end of this season should be about this man, of what he's done, being not hounded out, going through that empty stadiums. Announce now that you're going to change the manager at the start of next season. And I'm sure everyone in this stadium, everyone on the TV studio, on the radio, anything will say, give this man a send-off. I'd love to see him go out and win the Europa League and put Arsenal in the Champions League next season. It's not about being in the Champions League next season means Wenger keeps his job or not. For me, that's got nothing to do with it. Make the decision now and try and give this fella a send-off, what he deserves with what he's done over 20 years, not what he's done over the last sort of 5, 6 years, 10 years, whatever it may be. And his press conference yesterday when he was talking about, I've turned down lots of job offers to stay here and be loyal. That doesn't mean you should have a job for life. And those job offers would have come, I'm sure you, 10 years ago. They wouldn't have been coming now. Arsene Wenger, when he was manager, moved you on, moved Vieira on, moved Bergkamp on, Pires on, led some of the best players in Arsenal's history. Because of their, I bet these fellas could have joined different clubs at different times. They didn't stay because of their loyalty, because they felt they weren't good enough to go on. At this moment, what we're seeing here is not good enough for Arsenal, and it has to be a change.
We'll hear from Arsene Wenger as soon as he comes out of the Arsenal dressing room. He's been in there for a long time now, since the final whistle went. Does it feel, Thierry, that this is about managing Arsene Wenger's departure now, rather than about whether Arsene Wenger is going to go?
I mean, we're talking about Arsenal, and that's the big story every single time that the team is not performing and the team is not winning. But ultimately, they have a job to do up until the end of the season. So we don't know if he's going to go or not. That's not up to us. But they still have to try to manage to win the Europa League. That's the only thing that they can save, really. You know, they could have coped.
Sorry, do you think Arsenal supporters, well, obviously you know them better than me, do you think Arsenal supporters out there, as a crowd, actually think, we want to win the Europa League? Do you think Arsenal fans think, if we win the Europa League, that means the manager, I think a lot of them don't actually want it, the means he stays? So
I agree with what you're saying. I think right now, when I speak to Arsenal fans, they're just like this. They just don't know what they want. But ultimately, you still have to play. That's what I'm trying to say. You still have to try to perform. You still have to try to win at Brighton. You still have to try to beat Milan coming in Europa League. And so I'm not saying put that on the side or whatever. There's something might happen tonight or in a month or in a year or in 2 years. But ultimately, you still have to try to get something out of this situation. And I've been in a situation like that at Barcelona my first year. It's not easy to bounce back. because the players will be very low right now. That is maybe why Arsene is not doing his interview yet. They must be talking there or whatever is happening, but somehow they need to try to find a way to bounce back and be competitive at the weekend and be competitive against Milan. And I know, you know, when again I go back to the question you asked me. When you ask the Arsenal fan, they're like, you know what, I couldn't care less at the minute. That's the genuine.
That's what I'm saying before. That's worse than actually being criticised and being angry.
It is, but what I'm trying to say here is, how do you bounce back from that? Because like it's very low right now. You can feel it. I don't remember one time that Arsene actually not missed, but is late comparing to what he usually does. So you can actually feel what's happening at the minute, and it's not only because about the result, but the season is still going. They need to try to find a way to bounce back. However, whatever is going to happen.
Well, the season's the Europa League, isn't it? The season's not Premier League.
But it's soon. That's what I'm saying. It's soon. You're playing Milan soon. So something needs to happen really quick. How many defeats since 2008?
7 in 2018, which is more than any other Premier League team.
Well, that shows things are actually... I mean, I felt that there probably should have been a change last summer, only because, not so much in terms of get rid of the manager, sack him, but it felt like coming to the end of his contract. I think had finished in the summer. Yeah. Just missed out on the top 4. Let someone else take them in a different direction. When you're talking about bouncing back sort of now after that performance, that needs to be the bounce back this season, where it wasn't about getting back in the top 4, back to actually trying to challenge for the title or challenge for the, you know, they were in the Champions League, but they're actually further away. And it's not like the season started poorly and they're getting better. They've lost 7 in just over 2 months. Yeah. So it's actually getting worse, and this is just not the way you want sort of this manager. He won't be remembered for that when he leaves. He'll be remembered for what he's done for Arsenal Football Club in this league. And as I said, a legend in Premier League history. But you're talking about how can they bounce back? I see that as the only way to bounce back. If they announce maybe he is moving on in the summer, and it gives everyone a lift to give this man that send-off he deserves. Listen,
the man has been more than magnificent for this club, and everyone knows how magnificent that it has been for me. And so for me, it pains me to see this situation for the man. I'm going to talk only about him. For the man, it pains me to see that. After, it pains me to see that for Arsenal. But ultimately, the club still need to find a way to be competitive. And so when I hear sometimes the fans, and you see today, cold, traffic, problem, game on TV, I'll stay at home. When back in the days, they would never have stayed at home, cold, whatever, they would have tried to come to the game. And you still have something to play. I know disappointment at the weekend. I was expecting a response today, and some pride and some passion, or whatever word you want to use. Didn't happen. Europa League is still a good competition. You still can make your way back in the Champions League. Arsene never won it, by the way, and it's still a great competition to play for. Now I'm trying to find the positive out of the negative. We don't know what's happening because Arsene still didn't come out. But I feel sad. In all fairness, I feel sad because this is a club that I love and a man that I have a lot of respect for. And you kind of lost for word. You kind of lost for word. At the beginning, you get upset, like you said. You have a go. You like they should change this. You talk about the players and you talk about this, and sometimes it's the referee. And tonight is kind of a.
It felt like. Don't really want to say. Just felt like an end tonight. Just felt like.
It's weird.
Everyone
a weird
just felt
feeling.
tired. The supporters, everyone was just so flat. You understand to be flat after the weekend, but it just, I don't know, that resignation that it is just a part of the ways. That's just it felt like watching that tonight.
Yeah.
If there was a moment that summed up not just tonight, but probably longer for Arsenal, was it the penalty incident and the opportunity that Arsenal did have in the game?
Well, it was a clear penalty. We're not going to discuss that one. It was a penalty. Otamendi is late on Mkhitaryan. And we all called it here. We all said that will sum up the night. Nothing is going your way. And we all said he's going to miss it. I don't know. I've been in that situation when also I missed a penalty like that where you're like, nothing is going your way. I think we were playing Inter Milan at home. We were losing 2-0. I was missing every single control in the night. We were getting outplayed. And I missed a penalty.
It's been going on a while then.
Yeah. It is. No, but you felt that he was going to miss it because of of the whole situation and the heavy feeling that you could almost cut the atmosphere because that's how heavy it was. It was just it's kind of a weird situation because I felt it from here. I also felt it being on the field at Arsenal sometimes. It happened to me also at Barcelona. I'm sure, Jamie, you played some games where like, hey, referee, blow the whistle, please, because this is kind of embarrassing. It's weird. Like I said, I really do, and people might, think is whatever they think, but I really do feel sad for the man and the situation that we are in one now. I'll say that. I can say that everyone knows I'm an Arsenal fan, but the Europa League is still something to win. So chin up and try to make something out of it. I don't know what's happening, and we mentioned it again. He still didn't come out to speak. Hopefully, it's nothing.
He's probably listening to us.
No, nothing too bad. I mean, listen, you always realize what someone was doing when the guy leaves.
I mean, the big thing about Wenger, and we were speaking before, you said about what is the Arsenal way. Not just Wenger, I'm talking about going back. And when I was sort of a kid growing up, it was always Spurs who played the lovely football, and Arsenal were a proper solid team, but won trophies. You think of George Graham. But even when you came in, Wenger played better football, of course, but you still had that sort of strength and aggression with Arsenal, and that's just something that's just completely gone from this club, really. And that's, I mean, we've said it before, but you think of Arsenal, that way of the club, that it is a special club, Arsenal. Not just the stadium, the way people around the country think of the club as well, but it always had that sort of needle, that aggression, and that's a sad thing. It's not just about not playing well with the football; they just get rolled over so easily.
Yeah, that I can only agree with you because I'm gonna speak with the guy that I played with, and so if you wanted to play, we could. But I think the most important thing for me was the mix that we had, the likes of Lauren, the likes of Gilberto, the likes of Emmanuel Petit, the likes of Kolo Touré, Tony Adams, Martin Keown, Nigel, David, and Lee, Ray. Those are the guys. This is why we couldn't express ourselves up front. The balance was right, and I think for a very long time, people feared us because we could play, but also because we were there if you wanted the fight in brackets.
We've talked about the future longer term, but in the next week, the next 2 weeks, what can he do to try and lift these players?
I don't know. I don't know if you can lift some of them, to be honest. So often they've sort of, I wouldn't say let me down. I'm not an Arsenal fan. I'm not really too bothered how they get on, to be honest. But probably let him down at times. Listen, he's the manager. He picks the players. And last season, they changed the system. That sort of revitalised him towards the end of the season. It was a bit of a change, something he hadn't done for almost 20 years. Played that system at the weekend, didn't work. But, I mean, he's tried everything. I mean, Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang are still... I'm not sure if they can play in the Europa League or if they can or they can't. But how can they lift them for that Milan game? I mean, Gattuso's gone in there now, seems to have turned it round there. It's going to be a really difficult game. Listen, I said before, tonight just felt like rock bottom, really. And I just think, I don't know, I just announce a change, and I just think that would be the big change. I said that before. I can't think of anything else. They may get a victory. I can't see there being a great atmosphere in this stadium for that European Cup game. Forget the league now. Yeah, they'll play games and they'll try and win them, of course. They've got no chance of qualifying for the top four. They should just focus completely on the Europa League. But I just don't know how this place can be lifted for that game against AC Milan.
They're in sixth place in the Premier League, still involved in the Europa League. They reached the final of the Carabao Cup. Is it rock bottom, Thierry?
I think it's because of the recent performances and what's been happening for 6-7 years, really, because people cope with it at the beginning and then suddenly they were like, hang on a minute, it's a bit, it happens quite often. Rock bottom, it's a massive word, but because of what people used to see here and what's happening for a long while, then that's why people maybe are saying this. But you're still in a European competition, and you can win a European competition in a situation where you need to pick yourself up to try to beat Milan. But again, I'm going to repeat the same thing. I won battle with this man, I lost battle with this man, and it pains me to see him like that. And the only way you can lift him up and lift everyone up is if you can win the Europa League.